Good morning, everyone, and welcome back for another stream. It is Sunday. I know, I'm confused too. Well, I'm not really confused. It's just that my reading group is tomorrow and I need to finish this article by then. So we're here on a Sunday. It is 12:15 or thereabouts. And we're going to go and see how much of this we can get read. I'm sort of hoping I can do a similar amount to Friday, so a couple of pages, because then that'll leave me a couple of pages to do before the group tomorrow, which is not the end of the world. It's not ideal. The ideal is that we finish it all today, but we'll see how this goes. There's cat fur on my microphone, I've just noticed. She's obviously decided that she wants to headbutt it at some point. You can't see it, it's on this side. And I won't remove it because that would make a horrible noise for you. The good news is I've remembered to unmute myself at the start of the stream this time. So also I'm in, this is my heated blanket. It's one of those days. I'm in my heated blanket and I'm actually still wearing pajama trousers, because I really find that actually clothes have a big impact on how comfortable I'm feeling. So if I'm in a lot of pain, I'll often stick to softer clothing, because anything that is sort of restrictive can either actively make me be in pain because it can be pressing on the points that are painful, or it can just feel uncomfortable and add to that sort of overall discomfort, which isn't great. So yeah, so it's a comfy day today. So we're gonna sit and enjoy this comfortably, and just go through it slowly. At least that's the aim. What's gonna happen is 5 minutes in, I'm gonna be feeling like I need to rush. But that's how this works. So we'll just see how it goes, and if needs be, then we can sit for a moment and we can hug the narwhal. Covering the narwhal up. The narwhal is actually one of those stress toys where you can squish them. I also have the karma llama. I'm serious. The karma llama came to my wedding. There's a reason for that, but I'm not going to explain it because it's much more fun if I don't. All right, so the plan today is that actually I'm going to do the Pomodoro technique properly. So I'm going to do 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, rather than the 30 minutes I was doing last time. So I have changed my timer. So we're now on 20 minutes rather than 30. And now I've actually got chat in front of me. Hi Nimril. So the medical humanities it's an interdisciplinary field that basically looks at the relationship between medicine and the humanities and what each can do for the other, and makes a sort of a third space where medicine and the humanities can meet to find new insight into things that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. That's basically it, really. So it's things like looking at writing about the experience of illness, which is what my research focuses on, or it can be looking at sort of the sociological side of what we call the patient-doctor encounter, which is literally any doctor's appointment you might have, that sort of thing. It's a huge, like, wide-reaching field, but it's still relatively small at the same time. It's wide-reaching in scope, small in how many people know what it is. I didn't know what it was until last year when I discovered it by accident as an optional module in my master's degree. So it's I love it. I mean, I've read all sorts of things. I've read things about the use of art in hospitals, and the hospital corridor is the largest ward on a hospital, like that sort of concept, and how art being placed there is really significant. So it's really interesting, and it covers so many different things. But yeah, I focus on what's called illness narratives, which is basically the stories of the lives of people with any kind of illness, be that chronic or not. I mean, I tend to focus more on chronic illness because that's what my experience is. Yeah, so that's what I'm interested in, and I focus on mental health specifically. But the reading we're doing today isn't actually specific to that. Also, pretzel. We've done the interesting interpretation of chill again. We're training pretzel to understand that chill doesn't mean sudden loud beats. But yeah, so it's the reading we're doing today is sort of more general about the medical humanities, and it's about the concept of vulnerability and the different interpretations of vulnerability, and what effect that can have on how we conduct the patient encounter, how we arrange the infrastructure around medicine, all sorts of things basically. So we're gonna do 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, like we did yesterday. I will change us over to the foolishly titled game screen. I don't have things set up in a very complicated way back here yet. I used to have Streamlabs screens for like every different game that I was streaming, but now I just have one called game, and then I just throw whatever into it. So right now we've got this in, and it's doing the thing again. We got to the end of this paragraph here. Is my mouse pointer in it? No, my mouse pointer's not in it. Oh dear. I'm really good at navigating PDFs, everyone. You see my mouse pointed now? Yes, there we go. So we got to the end of this paragraph. We got to here. So I'm going to start the timer. There's nothing I can attach the timer to make it visible, but you'll be able to hear it beeping when it goes off. So if you are studying with us, it's 20 minutes. And we're just going to start now. Okay, because we've basically gotten through the intro and background in the field. So we're now getting onto the methodology of the study that they've done, which is looking at people with multiple conditions and their experience of vulnerability. So we're now onto the methodology bit, so maybe I'll put that as a title, and then I'll actually remember where my notes are rather than having to write what section it's in every time. I probably should have done that last time, but you know. The field of medical humanities has generated a rich tradition of attention given to the medical consultation and the diagnostic moment. It really has. Like, there's a lot of essays that I've read that begin with talking about that encounter. It's such a big thing in medhums, which is why I was mentioning it before. However, the focus has been interpersonal and particularly on the physician as communicator and the possibilities for empathy. Yeah, with far less engagement with how the different... Am I in the right place? You know what I might do? Oh no, because if I move myself to the bottom, then I'm just going to be in the way when we're at the bottom of the... I'm always going to be in the way somewhere, basically, so we'll just have to put up with it. Different participations in the consultation are themselves embedded within wider social structures, and almost nothing on the institutionalised dimensions of diagnostic practice, as opposed to physician competence, yeah. One of the major contributions, however, by the medical... I keep looking at my ring light and then becoming blind. One of the major contributions by the medical humanities to understanding blah, 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 has been an appreciation of different forms of knowledge and evidence, and in particular the value, complexities and constraints of evidence from first-hand experiential accounts. Yeah, that's an interesting... I might write that phrasing down. Oh, well, hold on, what page are we on? This will be 280. I talked about printing this out, didn't I? Then I never did that. Which bit did I want to write down? I wanted to write the value, yeah. Value, complexities and constraints of evidence from first-hand experiential accounts. I want to look at those 20 and 29. I've read that Angela Woods article, I think. But I might make a note of it anyway. And that is in... Oh, it's in MedHums. Okay. I wish I knew a way to go back to where I just was. I might have to move my ring light because it's just being such a pain in the ass. I also haven't put like the general lights on, which is then that might be the problem. Let's do that. That's made very little difference. I just want to check something. Yeah, we're all good. Okay. I'm not sure that I like how I'm sure I can change how I navigate this PDF reader, but that would require effort. So, in a review of the range of contributions to the medical humanities, Whitehead and Wood's foreground experience, and especially the illness experience, as one of 3 E's, alongside ethics and education, have characterised and shaped the emergence of the field. That's in the intro to a compilation book that I read. It might just be... Is it the intro to... medical... Edinburgh Companion to the Critical Medical Humanities. Yeah, that's the one. No, I've gone too far. There we go. While others in the social sciences and humanities also privilege experiential knowledge, medical humanities brings to such accounts a focus through interpretation, interrogation, or both on these concepts that are central to contemporary medical practice and policy. Yeah. Focus of the research on multiple conditions developed out of an initial interest with examining the apparent boundaries between mental ill health, physical ill health, chronic ill health, and disability. This is interesting. The focus in this paper on vulnerability emerged from a wider attention to the experiences of living with multiple conditions. And so we have only assessed experience of diagnosis from one side of the encounter, the perspective of the patient. It's interesting that they're like delving into why they've specifically used the patient side. I don't think I've really thought of that in terms of my PhD. Like, I think I could probably identify why. Like, it's not that I don't think there are reasons, but I think that they're gone very hype again, Pretzel. I think that the reasons aren't like what I was thinking about explicitly, but I'm going to need to do that as part of as part of writing it and thinking about it more. So I'll have to make sure that I do that. Accessing those who are... Oh no, I missed a sentence. There are clearly many cases of excellent practice in managing those presenting with multiple conditions and complex reasons for the decisions physicians make in the consultation. Yeah. So it's basically saying, it's not that we're saying their decisions are bad, it's just not what we're doing here. That makes sense. Accessing those who are living with any of these conditions on a chronic basis can be challenging, because it's quite hard to find people with multiple conditions a lot of the time, because it's not like you go to a doctor, and I think this is part of the point of the article, you don't go to a doctor for having multiple chronic conditions generally. It's sort of, because there's no, you have lots of things wrong with you, doctor. Unless it's serious enough that you're all in intensive care or something, something like that. So at which point, clearly something very different is occurring. We started out by working with a mental health resource centre in the northeast of England. Wallington Street Centre, Durham City. It's included those. It's interesting that I find myself inclined to read aloud less when the writing is clearer and is less academic. It's good though, because it's getting me used to being silent on stream, which I feel slightly awkward about still. The learning. It's just setting up basically the setting for the place where they did their study. All research participants recruited through the centre include at least one form of mental ill health among their experiences of multiple conditions. This is highly significant for research of multiple conditions, as there is a well-documented connection between mental ill health and physical health outcomes, including expressive premature mortality. There's a sentence. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of research identifying that your mental health has a huge impact on physical health outcomes, but I don't think there's a lot of work done structurally in sorting that out. I definitely found when I was writing my paper on chronic pain and finding all of the instances of women being referred to psychiatric services because they were presenting with pain. And yes, that is as horrible as it sounds. And it really was a horrifyingly high percentage, higher amongst women of colour. In fact, women of colour were often turned away with no help whatsoever because there is a societal assumption that women of colour are able to withstand more pain, and that therefore they could just put up with it. And that comes from the idea of the concept of the woman of colour as monstrous, which is all based on the idea that that women of colour are either very good at breeding or like highly sexualized, and either way it's all about their capacity to serve men, and it's disgusting. And like I actually can vividly remember sitting in at our university we have a study space that's specifically for postgraduates, and it's really nice. It's a lot quieter, smaller than the library. It has some individual cubicles that are generally very full. Not now, hope. Although in a way I kind of hope that only the cubicles are full at the same time, if you see what I mean. And those I have this vivid memory of sitting in there reading the articles I was reading about the racism inherent in general practice when women present with pain, and it was like reading a fantasy novel, and I realised that is a result of my privilege, that I can read it and it can seem weird and fantastical and horrible because although I've been subjected to sexism in the medical encounter, it's, no one's ever considered me a monster or acted like it, either actively or passively. Because part of the problem is that it's not that every doctor is thinking, wow, this black woman is a monster. That isn't actively a thing that's happening. But what has happened is that concept has permeated medicine and become, women of colour can tolerate more pain, so they're less likely to need pain relief. And it's only based on that inherent racism from the colonial era. It's nothing to do with even if there is research saying that might be true, one, I'd like to see how that research will be conducted ethically, for a start, and two, that's not where it comes from alone. It definitely comes from this background of colonialism, and I've just wildly deviated, but I find horrifying things like that interesting. I think you sort of have to find horrifying things interesting the moment you get into any sort of examination of gender or race in medicine. So yeah, I've just rambled there. I don't even remember where I was. I think I just read the words premature mortality. There we go. So I'm a little bit, and I'm reaching the point where I can't really control that my camera's covering this up, so I apologise for that. We've also only got 5 minutes left. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of the page. Another characteristic of the sample is that it's possible those referred to the Wallington Street Centre are those particularly dissatisfied with conventional medical care and as such may offer a critical voice. The centre provides life skills and opportunities aimed at either maintaining or improving a person's mental health. This includes offering courses as well as providing emotional support. One of us volunteered regularly at the centre, building everyday relationships with the users and awareness and sensitivity towards the range of issues the centre users faced. They worked as a volunteer at the centre's cafe one morning a week. This involved making tea and coffee and serving snacks, while chatting to the many service users and staff who use the space. Getting to know people helped to build trust, as a member of staff explained, this is a quote, "By giving us extra time as a volunteer on top of your role as a researcher and, people really do value that sort of thing because it makes them believe you actually want to be here rather than, without sounding too dramatic, rather than you're using them to get what you want. I think people feel that you've invested something of yourself into the organisation as well." That's really interesting. I'm going to make a note of because that definitely, the relationship with a researcher is going to really, especially when you're taking oral qualitative research, it's going to have a really big impact on the stuff you're going to come away with. People are going to feel much more comfortable saying things that they might not have otherwise, especially if it's things that are critical of the services they're in and critical of the world around them. Although becoming a volunteer did help to increase recruitment to the project, it had many other benefits. It also created the opportunity to informally discuss the progress of research. The project became a common talking point among the cafe users. I've worked out the problem with the ring light when I'm looking at the top of the screen. So I've got my ring light high up so that I don't normally see it, but I'm looking to I'm looking too high up. So they found no evidence that the female respondents were more open because of the researcher being female, but the male ones were equally open. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to try then not scrolling it up to see if that means that I don't get blinded. I just don't want to have to stand up to move the ring light. Essential research participations. I've just made up a word. Were recruited through posters, conversations, and word of mouth. Started by seeking one-to-one interviewers. With users who identified as negotiating anxieties. Oh, this is interesting how they've defined it. Okay, so when I was coming up with my PhD, I started off by defining people via the DSM, and then I realised that I hate the DSM and want to burn it. And I'm sure there's one of the earlier vlogs includes me ranting about the DSM. So it's really interesting that they're characterising this by an overarching category of symptom, not by... Because if you go anxiety disorders in the DSM, some of my primary sources for my PhD are about OCD, but in the DSM, OCD is no longer an anxiety disorder. Is it behavioural? It's something else. So technically, if I was using the DSM definition, I wouldn't be able to study OCD as part of my PhD because I would have gone outside my defined limitations. But I've also taken limitations off now, and I'm not defining it by any group of symptoms at all, because I want to be able to find a variety of things. And I think by looking at not just anxiety but things like psychosis and stuff as well, that's going to give me a much wider and much more interesting selection. Projects focus on... Oh, this is interesting. So they didn't set out to study multiple conditions, because it says the project's focus on multiple conditions emerged during these first interviews. The patients repeatedly described how they were living with the effects of a number of other symptoms and conditions, including additional mental health problems and pain, autoimmune disorders, and many others. So this is really interesting. So this is page 20, page 280. Mild difference there. But mid-right. Oh, it's time to stop. I'll finish writing this and then we'll take a break. Okay, is that quite done? Finish that page of notes as well. Oh, my arms hurt, which is a bit of a problem, but we're gonna do what we can. I've got quite a lot I want to do today. It's November the 1st, so it's NaNoWriMo month, and I wasn't going to do NaNoWriMo, and then I realised that actually I can in a way that is fun, because I can do it for something that I'm not going to publish under my name. It's never going to come out that way. It's just a thing I can do for fun, because I think previously I've always done NaNoWriMo with the expectation of, and then I will produce something I can formally publish, and I have done twice, but I think I just don't want the pressure of that. I just want the fun of sitting down and writing 1,300 words of fan fiction every day. I haven't set up anything about it. It's quite a last minute decision. So I'm gonna get that done later, and then I've got some work to do as well, and I want to play The Sims some more. Important things I need to fit into my day. I need to start rewatching the previous series of Star Trek Discovery so I can watch the new series of Star Trek Discovery. And all sorts of things like that, but I can't fit everything into one day. And I'm trying to sort of, excuse me, I'm trying to save up TV that I want to watch for times when I can't get out of bed, because often when I get stuck in bed, I'm then like, oh, I'm so bored, I don't know what am I doing with myself. So I also didn't look at the time when I started the break. I'm going to say I was 30 minutes in. That's what I'm going to say. That's where I'm going to say we're up to. But yeah, because then I've got something that I really want to watch at a point where I really need something to watch. So I think that's a nice way to do it. But yeah, I always, oh no, you know what I should be doing in this break? I should be standing up. Because that's the other point of having that timer going. So, but I'm gonna hug my blanket because I don't want to not be warm. I'm gonna stand up in my blanket. My heating comes on at certain times, and this is not one of those times. There we go. I've stood up. At some point, my chair might be found. The package has been lost. It's great. It's great. I love it. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that UPS have lost a package of mine again. Also worth a large amount of money for something that I really need to help me live with multiple disabilities. That's great. Anyway, I actually kind of feel like that's a long enough break. That's the problem. I think maybe if I had lots of people here to be talking to, because I've been watching a few other like work study streamers, which has been great, and a lot of them actually fully mute whilst they're studying, and I'm sort of thinking like I've started to get this idea. And I've started to get this idea that I might stream studying my PhD. And I know that sounds ridiculous. I'm obviously not going to stream every moment of it because I'm not going to stream like my supervisions and stuff like that. But I might just stream whilst I'm doing it. Because I think that would be a really interesting... So many of the people that you see doing work study streams are very good at meeting their hours with it, and I have the added complication of some days I can't get out of bed, and some days I can't focus for that long, so it will be really interesting to really very deeply show the experience of this is not just what I'm studying, but this is how I'm studying, and I think that could be really interesting. So a lot of that I would then need to do in a way where you're not sort of studying it with me, or I don't have it on the screen, because whilst this article is fine for me to share with you, not all articles and books and stuff are. So I wouldn't be able to do that with everything. But I'm starting to think that that's a thing I'd really like to do. I love Twitch. Twitch has been not Twitch specifically, but like Twitch the concept, especially this year, and actually for the past few years since I found it, because there are points where I don't feel able to access my support circle. I have really good friends and family, and they're amazing, but sometimes my brain weasels, sort of my anxiety brain weasels, make it impossible to access that. But I can go into a stream with a really good community and I can suddenly feel like I'm not alone, and I can go into streams and listen to incredible people talking about things that are really close to my heart. Like I've talked about Hello It's Colo and being in her stream when I couldn't use my hands, and she's someone who's also got a condition where she can't use her hands, and I watched her play a video game with her feet the other day, and it just made me so happy. And I've watched so many, like basically all the streamers I watch are women, and they're all utterly incredible, and I don't know that I would have gone through the past few years if I hadn't had access to those communities and to their just those amazing people. So I don't know that I'm getting upset so much as I'm getting lost for words, because it's really hard to I think that anyone who's been in a community on Twitch will understand what I'm trying to say just very badly. And I'm not like really deeply in any of these communities. I'm kind of like a peripheral presence in all of them. I've changed my Twitch name several times, so I think most of them don't know who I am. But it's just amazing. And I've been watching Murgles a lot, and Murgles is making a film, an animated film, and she's doing all of it on Twitch. And she's streaming herself doing all the artwork and everything. And she was talking this past week about just being amazed that people even want to follow it. And I don't know if people want to watch me do a PhD on Twitch, but I think it's pretty weird and cool. And I think I would want to watch someone doing a PhD on Twitch, so fuck it, let's do a PhD on Twitch. It's probably the end of our break now. If I don't finish reading this article, I was going to say I'll never get to my PhD, but actually this is optional study, so all right, where did we get up to? I had just written a note about a thing about multiple conditions, so I think the sentence beginning for this is where I was up to. So for this, we've recruited 12 participants for the centre. 3 further participants who did not attend the centre were recruited by snowball sample through researcher and participant contacts. Age range between 18 and 70. Oh, okay, so basically they're saying, because we've given the name of the centre, we're giving no other details about anyone we're quoting because we want to protect their anonymity. This issue is discussed later in relation to ethics. Data were generated through semi-structured interviews, working with a list of themes to prompt the discussion. This method offers the potential to take a careful and compassionate approach to the conduct of research, in which people feel comfortable narrating their life experiences. Ooh, that's interesting. So, there's 280 again. Bottom left. No, bottom right. I know my right from my left. Interviews were semi-structured. What is this reference? 34. Oh, that sounds like an interesting book. Methods in Human Geography, a guide for students doing a research project. Okay. Now I need to find where I was again. Here we go. Each participant was asked about given topics such as mobility, healthcare and home, with the view to encouraging very broad discussion around these themes. This approach proved an excellent entry point to the discussion as it provided some structure to the interview and enabled participants to narrate detailed personal accounts of their experiences and introduce additional topics. That's cool because it means you get to see the things that matter to them. It's not too like overly guided. It's not like leading questions. Pretzel. The position and interpersonal exchanges of researcher and participant have to be negotiated, and we understand these in terms of power, belonging, and anxiety. Our participants had prior connotations of an interview and of the use of recording devices in relation to assessing work and services. Lindsay Ann's volunteer work in the Centre Cafe, her relatively junior status as a young woman, bottom of the page, her own quiet manner, emphasis on commonalities and processes of consent, aim to mitigate the associations as far as possible. Nonetheless, past associations express themselves explicitly when interviewing Jack. They've given them fake names. Because that would be confusing otherwise, wouldn't it, when you were writing the thing up. When I met him in the corridor a few minutes later, he asked if he had done all right and if he had passed as if it was an exam. I explained that it wasn't an exam, but that what he had said was very helpful to me in the project. I thanked him again for his participation. Oh, I'm tired. Do you think we can get to the bottom of this page in this Pomodoro and then I'll have gotten as far as I wanted to at minimum? I think we can do it. I think because there's more gaps because we've started to get quotes. Oh no. Building commonalities for participants in part depends on the extent of being an insider or outsider. Yeah, so she had insider status as a volunteer but wasn't in the service facilities. Oh, this is interesting. You sit round a table with people who have the disability and I'll talk about it perfectly happily about it as a disability. But when it's in front of people who are not disabled, you tend to hold back. Unless you're being asked questions because it's the embarrassment. So I wonder if like that sort of says that having an openly disabled researcher makes a huge difference. So this is page 2A1. Mid left. Ability. Oh, non-disability. That's a better word. I should be using that word. Relations of power and belonging are infused in this study with feelings of anxiety, which many participants experience as part of their conditions regardless of the extra anxieties of research participation. I've just have skim read this quote and I really feel this quote very deeply. Oh my goodness, I know I'm going to analyse this conversation for the rest of my life and say I was too open, I was too forward, I talked too much. Because I'm not usually this energetic and I don't usually talk too much and it's kind of thrown me a bit. It's an achievement. I've been out, I did it, I survived another day. But then there's the anxiety over all the things I've said and done and how I've looked and everything like that. I see you, person who is not actually called Angela. Considerations of power acknowledged contributing to this context, yeah. Transcribe and analyse through an expanded set of themes beyond those used to prompt discussion and which emerge from participant accounts of their experiences. Okay, so basically they look at it and go, oh, hold on. It's 1 o'clock. Ooh. I don't think it made sound, but that was my medication alarm going off. Okay, where was I? Oh, so I should say that actually I keep my medication on my desk, some of it, because like most of it I take a lot more at night than I do during the day. During the day I'm just taking my painkillers. So I've got like a station effectively set up in the bedroom with all of the medication, but I do keep some here because otherwise what would have happened is I would have looked at that alarm and gone, nah, I won't take it. Which is bad. You should take your medication at the times that you were prescribed it. Okay, so analysing qualitative data necessarily involves hands off the mouse. We're at that point again. Making decisions about how to understand the voices of participants, which we endeavour to undertake here with a skepticism of clear-cut categories. Yeah, no, cool, I like that. So they're definitely coming at it from the same point of view that I would have. You don't want to over-categorise what is a really subjective thing. And that's interesting because I've been really interested in qualitative research, like since I really started to learn about how it's done. And I can see that there's a tension in wanting to prove that qualitative research is as strong as quantitative research, and I worry that sometimes that causes it to lose the qualities, if you'll pardon the terrible pun, of what it should be. So that's really interesting. I'm a nerd. Very nerdy. I just got excited about research techniques. Let me do this so that you might be able to see the paragraph I'm reading. As social scientists, we did not come to the study with a medical background, but rather viewed the range of symptoms, diagnostic labels, and experiential accounts as equally valid in terms of our analysis. Woo! As such, we seek to counter pervasive but troublesome conceptions of bodily difference that deviate from the norm and allow for the contradictions, ambiguities, interdependencies, and uncertainties that shape understandings of illness and disabilities. Oh, I really like that quote. I'm gonna write that down. Okay. I'm presenting the analysis for this paper. I'm getting anxious again. Hold on. Just going to take a second to breathe. You know what I'm actually going to do? So I have a collection of stuff on my desk. Also, that is self-care stuff, and this is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. It's Temple Balm. I can't see if that actually zoomed in or not. It's lavender scented balm, and you can put it like your temples, but you can also put it like anywhere where you're then going to get the scent. So I tend to put it on my wrists as well. I have a lot of positive associations with smells, and especially with the scent of lavender, which also in itself is a calming scent. Like, it's the one, you know, that's meant to help you get to sleep and stuff. This is now just a stream of me sniffing my wrists. But it really does help me. It's one of the things that, Pretzel, we're trying to calm down here. It's one of the things that I take with me in the times when I left the house, so that if I ever needed it when I was out, I had something to do. Walking too much again, meant to be breathing. almost became a yawn. Okay. I think what's happening again is it's just because I am talking a lot. I think I'm becoming very self-conscious about that talking. And almost, I wonder if having the microphone here, obviously having the microphone here works best because it's, having the arm has been great because I can just shove it out the way. It's not a big thing taking up space on my desk. Its quality has improved as a result. But it's very there. And then I'm talking to a webcam and it's very much a reminder of the presence of the stream. But I really am getting better with it. I think you can see that from the fact that I've streamed, 5 times this week? 4 times? And I've enjoyed it. I am enjoying this. You know, it's not the... Experiencing this anxiety doesn't get rid of that. Okay. Better. Got 5 more minutes. I'm gonna see. We get to the end of this page and then finish this paragraph that goes over the end of this page and we'll see how we're doing. We'll tell Pretzel off again. We're getting there. Okay, this is where I was up to, is this paragraph. And I'm gonna try for a bit to not talk as much. I'm not gonna try and not read it aloud so much to see if that helps a bit. And let's do that for the next these remaining 5 minutes and see what happens. A relatively frequent combination of chronic pain, anxiety, and depression. Oh. Just gonna write that quote down. New section. What I'm actually going to do is I've got 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left on this bit. So I'm going to take a bit of a break now. I'm just going to stop now because I think sometimes it's important, like, it's weird because sometimes it's important to push on and keep going. Like there, I feel better for having got to the end of that section. And you'll notice that I read it a lot faster when I wasn't speaking aloud. In this instance, it's okay because the stuff I was reading was just about methodology, and it's interesting, but not necessarily, it's stuff that's adding to my general knowledge rather than something I want to write down specifically. But it's important to know when to push on and when to not too much. So that's breathing. The more I think about it, the more I'm really glad I'm doing this, because it can be so hard to explain the constancy of chronic illness. And that constancy is the thing that sets it apart. We've all been in pain. We've all had times where we've been anxious. We've all had times when we've been depressed. We've all, we've had times where we've experienced all sorts of things that are characterised as symptoms of mental illness or physical illness. We've all had colds and that sort of thing. But the thing that sets the experience of chronic illness apart is that chronic nature. And it's really hard to explain. And this is the thing that I want to really study, is the attempt to explain. There we go, that's the end of our timer. The attempt to explain that chronicness. And I guess if I'm here on stream and you can actively see that I really frequently have to stop like even where I'm explaining this, what's happening is my chest is getting tight in the sense that I feel like I'm not getting enough breath. Not like I'm gasping for breath. That tightness, like if you're exercising, you might feel it, you might feel it, where there's just a slight sense of tightness in the skin of your chest, and you associate that with a need for more air. That's or like when you need to yawn, which my body is helpfully offering as a comparison. It has nothing to do with the amount of sleep I did or didn't get, or how bad my sleep is. But yeah, so I think this is a really interesting way to show that. And it's a thing that I think is really important. So I guess I have a brand. Maybe I need to do something about the fact that all of our, all the alerts are Lord of the Rings based. Maybe that doesn't go with the brand of let's live with chronic illness together or talk about chronic illness together. I do like those alerts though. I spend a lot of time working on them. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I've been live for an hour. I am starting to struggle a bit, but I would like to go on a bit more. How much more of this? So I'm on 281. Okay. So it's not a huge amount left. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to start the timer again. I am going to try, and I'm going to keep with a more quiet, not reading aloud so much, talking if I'm seeing things that are interesting rather than just constantly. And I'll either stop when I get to the end of that 20 minutes, or I'll stop earlier if I can tell that this is getting worse. And I think that's the best way to do it, because I've gotten further than I wanted to at minimum, which is really good. I can finish a couple of pages tomorrow if I need to before the group. Hopefully. But yeah, I'm really pleased with this. So we're gonna have one last try. That was a good break there. I'm gonna put this timer back on, and we're gonna see how we go. And I'm gonna keep it at this zoom because I think I want to read at this size for a bit. Don't betray me, pretzel. It's betraying me, isn't it? My eyes are getting tired now. Oh, I can see a mention of the DSM coming up. Prepare the rant. Actually, I want to write down that. 5 minutes past already. I guess I have read quite a lot. I'm just writing down some more quotes from this because it's a really good bit about the complexities of multiple conditions and diagnosis, and it's such an interesting article. I continue to agree with it massively. So I've just written the quote. Diagnosis becomes complicated when particular symptoms may be variably present or hidden in the bodies of those negotiating multiple conditions. Because I just think, so often I write things down because they're just a really nice summary of things, and I definitely think I can use it in the future, and that's one of those. Keep leaning on my bad hand to try and wrap it up in this. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a good example that they're using to illustrate how one condition can conceal the other. That's definitely happened for me as well. And this is top right. Example. For example, a few years ago, I had a lot of pain in my hands, very similar to the pain I've got now, and it turned out I had a vitamin B12 deficiency. So the assumption made at the time was that that was all of it, and I wonder if, if my doctor hadn't said, "Oh, we found something, that's it, let's sort it out," and if we'd thought about it in terms of the context of all my other pain, then maybe we would have, identified that it was something else earlier on. B12 deficiency is really common in people with fibromyalgia. So I wonder how many things like that there are in my medical history where there are things that we missed because we assumed they were just other things, when in fact there was something else underlying it that was hidden behind, that more obvious, oh, hey, we've got something on a blood test. Yeah. Her experience destabilizes particular medicalized understandings of illness, whether chronic or acute, as a linear narrative in which the illness causes symptoms which can then be diagnosed and hopefully treated. Oh, well, that one's going in the book. Because that's the very thing that my PhD is about using the written expression, or the verbal expression, as a way to really get into that space where things aren't a linear narrative, and to use non-standard narrative form, or non-normative narrative form is the way I'm phrasing it at the moment. To use that as a way to break out of the constraints of narrative form so that we can more accurately and more authentically articulate the embodied experience, which is why I'm grinning. My hand hurts now, but that was worth it. How are we doing? 8 minutes left. I think I can do this. I'm actually feeling a bit better now. I think that's the magic of stopping and pausing and accepting that something is wrong and I need to do something about it. So which way on? On 283. So there's 2 more pages after this one. Ooh, doing really well. I want to lean on this hand. My thumb joint is really hurting now. I've just sort of bundled it up like a muff. I love this quote, but I don't love this music. So this is from one of the people that they studied, and she's talking about her bulimia being ignored in favor of her depression. And she says, you can't neatly define up what is agoraphobia, what's bulimia, what's depression, what's OCD or anxiety disorder. And that's such a good point, and it really gets to the heart of the problems with the DSM, because so many things overlap and get really focused on treating one thing and then you miss the other. And she's basically saying, no, the thing that affects me more constantly is the bulimia, but they're really focused on the suicidal ideation. Understandably focused on the suicidal ideation because that's scary, but the morbidity present in eating disorders is also terrifying. So it's really surprising that there wasn't more focus put on that for her as well. So this is 283. Top left. Stephanie, was they called her? Yeah. Because the really interesting thing is that, let's say that they really focus on her depression and leave her bulimia untreated. Her bulimia then worsens to a point that she then dies by suicide because of the bulimia. They're then going to look at that and blame that on her depression and say that they didn't treat her depression well enough, because people, when you've got multiple conditions, they attribute the symptom, or in that potential case, the cause of mortality, to the most obvious one. And depression has the more obvious link to suicide. So that then skews the sort of medical conception of it. I guess that's a really interesting thing to consider, is how many of our statistics come, like in our studies and stuff, come from people with multiple conditions, and how much are they already muddied in that sense? Because it's really common in chronic illness to have comorbidities, and I don't know many people who've ever had depression but not anxiety, or vice versa, because they share the same symptoms, because we codify them in a weird and pointless way. I've got into the rant. I'm gonna try and get to this bit of on conflicting conditions. I'm gonna try and finish up to there and then stop, because I don't like stopping midway through a paragraph. And I don't know if you can actually see my mouse pointer right now. I don't think you can. Oh, that's really interesting. So this is someone with OCD and an eating disorder, and she wasn't allowed to go to an eating disorder clinic because they felt that the focus wasn't on her OCD, but her OCD was focused on her eating disorder. Yeah, so they're showing the structural vulnerabilities that they're talking about. So page 283, this is Vicky. Oh, I've done it. I've got 23 seconds left. We did it, everyone. Oh wow, no, I am gonna stop there though, because I think also there's something, well, one, I've run out of room in my notebook, so this is gonna be hard. And two, I definitely think there's something really powerful in stopping on a high. and in saying, let's get ourselves onto my big face. I've got a bit of air that's coming loose. Yeah, I definitely think there's something really powerful in saying I could continue, but I don't need to, because you see, I've got the remains of that page, which is going to take me a couple of minutes. I've got 2 pages left now, because the amount that's left on this page is the amount that there isn't on the final page. So it's literally 2 pages. A lot of that will be a summary, which will probably just consist of me writing loads of quotes down. So it's a really good place to stop. I've done so well. I can't believe I've done so well when I felt so awful when I came here. So that was great. So I definitely think I'm thinking a lot of things now, and I'm thinking a lot of things about how this stream works, and I'm thinking, one, I'm going to stop calling it an academic vlog that I'm numbering, because let's be fair, we've moved past that now. This has now become I stream whilst I'm studying, because this is working so well. I really love it. I think it's working really well, and I definitely want to try the thing of doing 20 minutes on, 10 minutes off, but going fully silent, so you're just seeing me and listening to lo-fi music, and you can really study with me in the sense that I won't be talking at you, and then we can talk about the things we've just read, and whatever. And I think I'd like to try that. I might make a point of trying that in the coming weeks. What of course will happen is that I am handing my dissertation in 3 weeks. So I think it was 3 weeks yesterday was the sort of pre-anniversary of the deadline. So we will be having a weird experience, but we'll sort of get into what do you do when you're on holiday. We might just play games for a while. But yeah, so that's been fantastic. I'm really pleased with it. I'm going to think now about like what I want to do in terms of, I think I'm going to continue uploading things to YouTube. I didn't record today. Good work, me. I'm going to continue uploading things to YouTube just to have them archived, because things don't necessarily stay here forever because I'm only affiliate. And then that's a nice way to have everything together in a collection, and yeah, then just sort of just lean us more towards being like an academic career streamer, which is weird because if you know of anyone else who does that, I would love recommendations, because I'd love to go and see how other people are doing this, if anyone else is doing this. If they're not doing this, I'll continue to look at people who are doing similar things, like the streamers I've been watching who do work study streams. So yeah, that was great. I'm gonna go. I'm slightly overheating now, whilst also really needing the heat because I'm in a lot more pain as well. So hopefully those painkillers I took 40 minutes ago will actually start working soon. Although they don't do a vast amount for my kind of pain, unfortunately. So I'm gonna go take a proper break and then go on to doing all the other things I want to do with my day. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Happy November. How the fuck is it November? Pretzel, why? Really? You wanted to get just one more in there. You wanted just one more thing that I needed to thumbs down. It will learn. Pretzel will learn. But yeah, I will see you an unknown point. I don't know when. I do have my group tomorrow, so I almost certainly won't stream tomorrow. I think I'm finding that if I have to do any sort of Zoom, that I'm tending not to stream. So what I suspect will happen is I won't stream Monday or Tuesday, because Monday I've got my group and Tuesday I've got my supervision. But I reckon I'll be here on Wednesday so we can talk about the group and the supervision. Because I would like to do that, but who knows? I'm going to say this and then I'm going to rock up like tomorrow after my group or Tuesday after my supervision and be like, I want to tell you all these things. So we'll see what happens. But until then, thank you very much for coming. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and unknown quantity of time until we're back again. Thank you very much for studying with me, and I will see you very soon.